High-speed rail.
But you raise an interesting question that we talked about that we have not gotten to yet. But if we're going to say we want to have an increased participation, we do want to train people too. So we're going to have an academy or whatever we call it to do that. So we're going to have a whole department of civic engagement that's it's called Open Government Civic Engagement, headed by a former council person who should have been mayor of San Diego, who got the most votes actually, Donna Fry. That to get people engaged, they have to feel that they have power and they're going to be listened to, and we want to make sure the community groups are not only listened to, but they're trained to do that right, and that they have a reason because they're going to be listened to. High-speed rail, I'm not sure. There's about 8 different ways of looking at that, but and I'm not sure where you're going to. But Sandag, as you know, under state law, they had to produce a 40 or 50 year program, which put all of their mass transit backloaded to the last 10 years or something instead of the first 40 years. Now that I'm on Sandag, we got to try to change that and get back a priority of public transportation, that is sustainable and energy efficient, etc., rather than all on highways. Well, I don't know the exact details of all that, but we're going to try to. I'll learn them, and it's just a question of political focus right now. Those are questions that will come out if we decide we're going to be sustainable and energy efficient. Then we have all the experts we need to figure that out.
Can you talk about if you're part of Mayors Against Illegal Weapons, Guns? There's an organization of mayors. Talk about where you stand on that.
Did you say am I a member or
No.
because I'm a member? No, I am a member.
You are, great.
And the mayors in that group are trying to speak out in favor of the president's program, basically, and Senator Feinstein stuff. But we're taking some interesting new approaches, which we're still trying to figure out or researching. For example, cities buy guns and ammunition, right, for our police forces. Nobody's ever asked, where do we buy them and how do we buy them, who do we buy them from, Well, what if we're inventorying all that now across the nation? And what we're going to say to that gun lobby is if they participate in trying to stop common sense safety legislation, we're not going to buy from them. I mean, it's going to be like we have a pension system that we want to disinvest in. So we're going to try some different things that people hadn't thought of before. When we had the disinvestment during the South African campaign, that was really effective. Well, what if cities began to do that So we're going to add a new level of pressure in there that have not been really done before. Yes.
What is your position on the new Charger Stadium?
Where is it? Is there already one? Let me first say, I love the Chargers. I like to have a team. However, you have a billionaire owner of a team that makes hundreds of millions of dollars and he wants $1 billion from the city.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
So they're not going to extort from us anymore.
Thank you.
But it's a private thing. If they want to build a stadium, I welcome them to do it. There are interesting things, by the way, that if we talk about a stadium, there's other things that can happen. Just assume, this is just an abstraction, there's no proposal or anything. Let's say that Qualcomm was vacated and you have all of that property in Mission Valley, which is city-owned, where San Diego Park San Diego River runs through. You can expand a park. You can do a lot of public things, including and economic development. San Diego State, has trolley connections right between Qualcomm. What if there was housing for students there? There's a sports arena that could be a company that could be the events at the sports arena on Point Loma could be incorporated into a stadium. We put a floor there. Basically, you can have hockey, basketball, soccer. And the city owns that property. Well, what if you did really good public things with that property and brought in a lot of money? You could pay for whatever kind of things a stadium might require from the public. So we can make money off it, I think, if we did it right. Now, if they want to talk about some deal like that, I'm going to talk to them about it. And Comic-Con is? It's apparently it's the biggest convention that we get, and I'm not in that group, but apparently it's really interesting, crazy people, and you know they bring a lot of interest, and so everybody wants to do things to keep Comic-Con here, right? So I thought in a convention center expansion or a stadium that you mentioned, there are some cities that are very famous for things like, you know, if you go, what's Cleveland famous for besides Cleveland? They have the National Rock and Roll Museum there. It's an incredible place. People go there just for the National Rock and Roll. And Nashville has stuff, and you know, other cities have national museums. What if we had a national comic book museum? Then Comic-Con would have to be here. Now, I might get laughed at as the comic book mayor or something, I don't know. But just think about that. I mean, you know, something different. Are you for it or against it?
What's the status with public employees and pensions, and where do you think that will end up?
Everybody hear the question? You know, I was the only one who was candidate for mayor who said that this vilification of public employees must stop, and it has stopped in San Diego. But the public employees didn't cause this thing. I mean, it was Wall Street greed. I mean, every pension system came down 50%. Why are all of a sudden we're saying these people caused it? And then previous mayors stole money from that system, by the way. Mayor Golding wanted to have the Republican convention in San Diego. So, and she said, no public money. But she stole, I don't know, $10, $20 million out of the pension system. And winked at the employees and said, don't say anything and we'll raise your benefits. Murphy wanted to build the Petco Stadium. No public money. But they stole the money from the pension system in exchange for... So, you know, the public employees didn't cause. But we have a situation where something approaching a third of the city's budget is going into pension payments. You know, that's pretty tough to do anything else. So, and Mayor Sanders had done a lot of reforms that the city employees paid a hell of a price. No pay raises. They had to give back a lot of their contributions went up and the cities went down. They lost a lot of health care stuff. So we were moving toward, I'll say, a sustainable system. And then this Prop B came along, which says no more pensions for new employees. City voted that in. I think it was wrong. It's now under challenge. I don't know if it'll ever be implemented. However, I got to work within that structure. I can't ignore it because it was a vote of the people. So I'm working with the public employees. They have a friend there. They all supported me for election. To try to have, for example, a long-term contract, say 5 years, where because it's long-term, you can build in some flexibility for some compensation increases, and they haven't had any pay raise for 6, 7, 8 years. That we begin to treat them more fairly. So that's what we're going to try to do, even within the context of Prop B, which I think it may be declared illegal, but there's going to be lots of fights along the way. So we're going to try to do something finally for the employees within the context of a long-range contract. I got time for two more minutes.
What about your idea to have the direct connection between, say, the Santa Fe terminal and the airport? Do you think that will ever happen?
Yeah. No, most of this stuff, by the way, is not money, and it's the political will and the pressure that you can exert. And I don't know, you know, there's some infrastructure problems, but if you say you're going to do it, we could do it. I mean, regardless of whether, you know, the people said, and they probably couldn't say today, but we built Mission Bay Park, we built Shelter Island, we built Harbor Island. No, you know, no, we can do it. It's a question of the political will, and I'm trying to, you know, I'm facing a lot of special interests and entrenched things, but if we explain it right and if people understand and I do it in a responsible way, I think we can get support. No, I'm sorry, I'm heading to the left one always, you know.
I'm concerned for you because of UT no longer being a newspaper but a journalistic rag. And I'm wondering, what is your plan how are you going to get your ideas across instead of the propaganda that's coming out?
It's a problem that is built into the situation. We're developing I have been slow during the campaign out to have a social media structure that we can get to people through, the Twitter and the Facebook and the texting and, all YouTubes, so we can communicate directly. And frankly, I'm going to not only labor and environment, and education, Democratic Club say, getting elected is easier than governing if you're a progressive. So we have to look at this almost as a continual campaign. I'm going to have to call on you. We're going to have to go door to door. We're going to have advertisements. We're going to have to organize people to understand. I'm going to have to go to PTA meetings and Rotary clubs and everything like we do in a campaign to explain why San Onofre doesn't make sense, or why we ought to have direct connections with the airport, or why Sandag's thing was wrong. We're going to have to run this in a I'll say community organizing way, in a way that we've never done here and very rarely around the nation. So I'm going to have to call on you for organization over the next 4 years before there's an election again, because we have to combat that. I mean, they came out against me, as you know, in the election, and we won. So because we had a campaign, they spent, by the way, the other side, $13 million against me. We had maybe $2. So you can get it message through, even through you saw the negative stuff they had in me and all this. And yet, my experience and my record over 30 years, was able to still get through. So we can do it. It's not easy. And we can't afford to fail either. Because if we don't do this after a generation of no democratic thing, and we fail here, then we're going to, be another generation or more without. So we've got to all work together to make it happen. I can't do it alone. I'm going to have to call on you to do things like you would normally do in a political campaign, and also, contribute to that in ways that we have to be creative. I can't even set up a campaign committee, for example, but we got to find other ways to do that. Last question.
Regarding the elimination of the cameras at the lanes, I work at the courthouse, so I see a lot of tickets coming in. But is that extended beyond the city?
No, that was just a city contract.
Just city.
She's talking about the red light cameras that we. I thought I was getting to a red light district, so I thought. But I got enormous publicity for taking down those cameras, but I didn't think they engendered I'm for safety, but they engendered a cynicism about that was not helping us. And but then I put up cameras. By the way, I put up this incredible camera in La Jolla watching the seals. We have seriously, most you've heard about a panda cam that follows them. We have a seal cam now, and you should look at it. I think it's sealcam.org or something. I should have it. But last night or the night before, there was a birth of a pup that was reported by the seal cam. I mean, this happens at night. But we got infrared stuff on this camera. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, this is the only place, by the way, in an urban area in the Western Hemisphere where you can see this. I think it's worth protecting myself. I mean, but so we put up a camera, and if you go to it, I forget we'll try to get back to you, but I'm sure if you look up seal cam, you'll Google it, you'll find it. But it's a 24-hour thing, and people are monitoring it around the world. Somebody has to point it at the right place. And there are volunteers around the world. I mean, it's a research camera. And the night last week we got pictures of it was 3 hours after a sea lion was born. She was nursing, and they got a picture of that. But this one is actual birth, and they got it on the camera. So cameras go up, cameras go down. We do it no matter what. Anyway, I need your support. We're going to have a fight. Stay alert for 4 years. You get the last question.
What can you do with the education? For example, teachers now have larger class sizes than they had before.
Well, I'll come back for another hour on that. As you know, I've been an educator most of my life, and it's very important to me. I mean, I'm not in charge of the school system, but I can be part of a coalition that's talking about adequate funding and better. And we're going to try to create an environment in the city of San Diego where everybody feels responsible for the kids, say before and after school, when the kids get in most trouble. Why isn't the whole city being involved in this? You know, a city by definition has resources. Like we got the Chargers, the Padres, the Navy, big businesses, small business. We got some of the best museums in the world. Why aren't they all participating in helping kids after school, for example? There were 1,000 kids supervised at Balboa Park, seeing how the museums work, the learning that comes from those museums, see how business works. It would be incredible to keep their education going and them active and involved. So I want the whole city to compete for how they're going to help with their kids. I got to get that
I like that
movement
idea.
started, and we're going to try to do that. Thank you all very much.
Yay!
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Oh wait, Mom, give him the cookie. Bob, we have a cookie for you.